Okay, well, let's go ahead and start. Tammy, keep one ear open here. Hopefully these things, I think we've discussed them in pretty great detail. In terms of the extra duty schedule, as we talked about presenting it, kicking off core curriculum advisors, honor choir, and then waiting to see, well, I guess the board hasn't decided on a final number. Are you okay with what they potentially could decide? With the extra duty schedule. I guess, tell me what are your guys' thoughts on going to four per high school?
I think that's fine. The fact that we're not reducing it completely, we're not eliminating it, and we're keeping some access for our students, I feel like that is acceptable.
I agree.
It's not ideal for what they had,
No.
but that's not the point. The point is that we're making
I was gonna say, yeah, it was
I would-
16 ideal.
16 at each school.
I know.
That's a lot.
So
Well, any
I'm-
given weight room, you're not gonna have, 30 people working out in this high school, that's a lot, so.
Okay, so do you guys have any issues with the extra duty schedule as it was presented? So can we consider that a tentative agreement?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And the things that were on that were reducing the summer weights to 4.
It was called summer activities.
Activities,
yeah.
summer activities, thank you.
4 per high school.
4 per high school.
And the only other thing.
And the other thing on that one was,
Honor choir.
sorry, what do you-
Well, and the curriculum advisors.
Yeah.
Any reference to curriculum advisors came off.
You had talked about the homeless advisor. We had highlighted it last time. And we never, I just realized
The
that.
homeless advisor, I was advised needed to remain, so I
Okay.
just kind of
Okay.
dropped the discussion at that point. All right, so we okay on extra duty schedule? The flex time / staff, salaried staff discretionary time. Any concerns with the wording there? My opinion would be that we put this in the employee handbook in whatever point makes sense. And that, since that is approved by the board, it has the weight of board policy.
I think that having the conversation to open this up and to make these changes so that we have a little bit more give to our staff whenever there are, extra circumstances, and having that approval from the administration in their building, I think is wonderful. So I'm very pleased that you were willing to work with us on creating this.
Okay, so we're good with the wording as it is? Okay, we'll consider that a tentative agreement. And like I said, I believe that's most appropriate in the employee handbook, which everybody has to sign off on, and they'll see it. The salary schedule provisions, as they were presented, did anyone have any, I know you guys are telling us other districts do the 2 times with the,
The only thing I saw was actually just a typo. In the 4th bullet point under acceptance of graduate credit, at the very last line, receive their national board certification, they will received a, just a typo.
Yeah, received.
on which bullet?
This,
Bullet number 4.
they will received.
They will receive.
I probably wouldn't have seen it if I didn't pull it up on like Google Docs and have the little red right there.
Okay, yeah, thank you for catching that. Okay, otherwise, everybody okay with this?
And really it's statutes, so.
Yeah, well,
We
I
choose
mean, I
not to break
understand.
the law.
I'm curious though, I get our situation, and we don't want anything
We don't
else
need any
coming
more
to us,
attention.
we don't.
No.
But if it is illegal, then how are districts doing it?
Nobody's called.
Nobody
on it.
pushed it. But a lot, I'll tell you this, some districts, as we had this conversation just a couple of years ago in Savannah, and it was such a nightmare for, well, and that was a small district. I can't even imagine West, to try to in December meet that people just, we just did away with it. And then come to find out, it is. But, maybe some of you really big districts do it, but I would say most districts pay, or just change that once a year, because you're contracted at that, and your contract changes in the middle of the year. And, I know we just did away, it was a nightmare for payroll, and that was the reason it was brought up. And then the fact that you're changing a contract in the middle of a contract. Now that there's Meet and Confer is here, and as we move forward, if there would be anything statute about collective bargaining, that would be a big issue. 'Cause
Most districts don't do it annually.
Yeah, annually, that's what we found in our research, that there are very few that did it in the middle of the year.
Okay, so with getting rid of the D on received, we okay with this? All right, thank you. The calendars, as presented, the big booklet. Again, Eric, you said everything's the same except there was one day added to library facilitators. It was the spring parent-teacher conference day. That was added to that. Everything else is the same. Is that an accurate statement, Wes? Any issues with agreement on the calendars?
And Dr. Kraus will have a cover sheet on that.
Somebody will have a cover sheet on it. Oh, and the other thing that I need to point out about the calendars, there will be some unusual calendars still to come. For instance, right now we have a one-day-a-week counselor at one of our elementary schools. We don't have all those because, number one, it's not been decided if that position is going to be eliminated or not. This probably covers all but 5 to 10 employees out of 2,000. So there will be a couple of additions later, but there shouldn't be any changes to these. Okay? And finally then, the insurance, and it's my mistake entirely, I forgot to even think about putting it on the agenda, but what we would like your agreement on would be the board reducing their contribution by $100 per month per employee. Plan design is the same, employee contribution is the same, coverage is the same. And we most likely, now that, again, this is not sure, if we would have a really good claim year, we might be able to continue this, but we're talking about as a one-year basis for right now.
Well, she said Monday night that we could possibly we could have this for 2 years, but we're only gonna count on it for one.
Yeah, we potentially could.
I had somebody ask me who falls in where both people work for both spouses work for the school district, if that's gonna change their.
Tell them about it, Leslie.
I'm not telling them.
Please do.
Please, because there are, I know that's not a great number of people, but as soon as that, after the work session that night, I had a couple of emails saying, how does this impact us? Because if you look at the numbers, it maybe doesn't add up. So how is it going to impact those people?
It only affects the people that have the family plan. Because individuals, it's already calculated on individuals.
Right, but if both spouses work for the district and they have a family plan, what is going to
They
happen?
only have one family plan.
Please tell me.
Well,
Don't
we're
they?
still trying to figure out how that's gonna work.
But the numbers don't add up. You take
Right.
100 and 100 away, it doesn't add up. They're technically
I
gonna
think
be
we're
out.
gonna lower the family plan amount for those individuals.
And
All-
so that
yeah.
it evens out.
The important thing
So
for
we
those,
don't get
the
the
important
brunt of it.
thing for those people to know is that still there's only going to be $100 less contribution for the board for them. The difference in those numbers will be made up by the board. It won't change the employees.
What-
Right, that's a key to this.
So it won't
What
show
they're
up.
going, no matter what, they're not gonna pay more money, because if you add it up,
Right.
if
Then
you
they
take
would
the
be.
numbers, they were gonna end
We'll have
up
to
being out
adjust the
some money.
board's contribution in those cases where both spouses work and have the family plan, but they will not see any difference other than the
Okay.
100
That
less
is the
contribution
key.
from
The
board.
difference, what they're currently paying now, will remain the same.
Yeah, so there won't be a rate on there for those.
I mean,
There's 42 staff members that have the family plan and they both work for the district.
Okay,
We've already, we had this
But each
discussion
one
last
of
week.
them are paying for family plan? One wouldn't pay for family plan?
No,
Like-
it's
like
they
I
take.
pay, it comes out of my paycheck, like in our family, it comes out of my paycheck. And Kevin's doesn't get docked for health. Now, dental and vision and that kind of stuff we do separate because it's smarter to do that. It's cheaper for us to separate those out because the contribution is different.
Okay.
But from our insurance, it only comes out of my paycheck.
But what the board would contribute for him as an employee gets applied toward that. Is that what I understand?
Yes, yes.
So when you took those amounts that were in the document the other night and you added them up, there was a discrepancy, and so that's where the question started. And if you're not one of those people, you wouldn't
So there's
look at
spreads
that.
and stuff.
I didn't even think about that,
So-
to
What
be
we
quite
have to do,
honest.
and I'll explain this, what we have to do is we have to separate them because of retirement. So that way both employees get credit for their retirement on their health
Okay.
insurance, but we still just charge them the total for the family rate.
Okay.
When I started calculating these a couple weeks ago, I was like, wait a minute, that means their rate's gonna go up $100.
And that's exactly what they
So,
had figured out.
me and Brian talked about it, we called Lori, our broker, and she says, well, it shouldn't matter. I said, but it does. Me and Brian finally got to understand it, so we're just gonna, it's not gonna show up on the rate sheet, but we will make sure the employees do not pay any additional. So it will not be any more than what they're currently paying.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Get that
Okay.
in writing from you, because I can tell them, but it may not mean as much from you.
Well, just make sure in this agreement here tonight is that they agreed the difference is no different than what it is currently.
Right, no
You
employee,
agree.
despite what it is, what their situation is,
Okay.
no employee is going to be impacted financially by the change.
By the health insurance.
Health
Any
insurance.
different than what they're currently paying
Right.
now.
Perfect.
Now, your statement wasn't 100% accurate in that they will have less show up as contributions
For
towards
retirement.
Retirement.
For retirement.
But what
yeah.
they will
But
pay
not out of
will go to
pocket.
their pocket.
Right,
out of
what
pocket.
they will pay for out-of-pocket for insurance.
The only reason there would be a potential change is if they choose a different plan during opening enrollment. So if you go from a PPO or HMO plan, go to the HSA plan,
Well,
yes,
obviously.
obviously you would see a change there.
Right.
My daughter
So you're
loves it
making
for
that choice.
HSA.
Yeah, they're awesome.
She loves it.
My husband has that.
Oh,
So-
Same company.
And I was
With-
like,
With that discussion then, everybody okay with the insurance proposal as we just discussed it? Okay. I think we're done. What-
I don't think it's really meet and confer, but the people here were just wanting me to bring up, would it, with the whole PTO buyback situation, does that impact their retirement at all?
No.
It doesn't, because it's just a one-time payout,
Well,
right?
Yeah, that doesn't count toward insurance, I mean toward,
The PTO does not qualify for retirement.
Retirement.
Okay, that's, I didn't think it did, but I wanted to make sure I brought
We
it
tried
up
to
before.
explain that to Pam, that she thought for sure. they did.
Basically, you
I'm
have to
like, no.
weigh
Pam was
retiring
like-
now, going one more year versus either not getting that or getting it
I
now.
would like to, real quickly before we disperse, I personally like this format of have a meeting and then it's fresh in our minds and deal with meet and confer topics. I'm assuming that there are going to be topics that you guys want to address at meet and confer that we maybe haven't gotten to yet or need to be brought up at United SJSD. Is there anything that I need to have on my radar to prepare for?
At the moment, I don't have that information.
Okay. So I guess next time I would anticipate that we would bring some closure to the additional pay rates document and then have a meet and confer right after. What else is out there that we need to bring some closure to?
The pay thing
Well-
maybe by then,
Oh,
changing the pay date.
okay.
The more notice we can give people about that and the more crystal clear we can have it spelled out, the better it's gonna be.
is that something that you want to try to get to?
I think in theory it's great. That December, January thing is rough on everybody. And I can't imagine as a first year teacher when you don't really understand that that's gonna happen. And then now you've gone 6.5, 7 weeks without getting paid.
It's not gonna really affect the first year teachers.
This is true. It's
It's
not
okay.
going to
It's
affect
okay.
it now
Their
because
bills. They don't set up their bills
Right.
based on,
It's gonna be a
It's everybody.
budgeting challenge for the current staff, because, and I just explained it to you right here, instead of getting 5 checks before the end of the year, or 6 checks before the end of the year, this first change, you're only gonna get 5. So you're losing a month's worth of income that first year we do it up front. You still get it, it comes at the tail end. But that first year, so it's gonna be a challenge budget-wise, that's why I wanted to get ahead of it and get out early.
Well, that's the one challenge.
That is the only challenge.
That's
No,
not the
that's
only
not the
challenge.
only, because
Well,
then it's,
because
when-
you-
how you, if you already have
Well, I
to
know.
reset your bank account.
You'll have to reset your bank account for
Yeah,
your payments,
that's
yeah.
the
So,
other
but
mean,
I still
that's
can't
not
pay, I still
typically
can't
a
So
change,
that's-
I still can't change my pay dates 10 days out.
I think
That's
it's a
a-
matter of, like you said earlier, about like you know, for the people in the 6 week, when we have the 6 weeks, you have to budget to make it the 6
Yeah,
weeks.
it's gonna be a budgeting
It's like,
challenge for
it's
the
that
first year.
6 weeks is gonna slide to a different time period for the first year, for just a second.
Just the
So
first
that you can
year,
budget.
it's a
you
challenge.
have to
But you
budget
can't budget your dates when bills
You
are
can't,
due.
yeah, you can.
Right,
though,
but the
I mean,
amount of money in your
Because
account
then you would
can
save
be budgeted.
from August to pay for the beginning of September. You can, I get what they're saying. Is there a reason why it couldn't just go to the first of the month? Why it has to be the 10th?
Because holidays, Christmas,
He's trying to
you're still
avoid,
doing Christmas.
Yeah.
Because the holiday for Christmas is the first day, we don't work that week before Christmas. So
First day of
everybody's
the
still gonna
month is
want their
not Christmas.
paychecks.
no, but
How
in
many people
January
were
it is.
complaining
So
about
that's-
how
But
it
then
was
you
paid out this year?
What'd you say?
We get a lot.
How many people, was there?
Oh, yeah, we get a lot of complaints.
Well, I didn't hear the question.
How many, did you guys hear of any complaints this year, how it was paid out? We had more complaints last year.
When it wasn't
Last
paid.
year, because
paid
it
out.
wasn't clear last year.
Because, yeah.
Well, we
This
didn't
year-
pay it out, well, we did, we came back, but we weren't. And people complained about not having it.
I was gonna say,
That was because
in my
I hadn't
household, I
been
love having
communicated,
that
it was
extra check
changing.
before Christmas.
That's what I thought,
And
more
I just
people
have to
felt like
budget.
they,
That was a benefit, that
Yeah,
they get it
and the
before,
6
and they
weeks-
just live with the fact that it's a big stretch, and again, you budget that you're gonna have that big stretch,
I
then you
think
don't
everybody
change any of it.
complains about it amongst ourselves, but in essence,
Just
a
'cause
lot
you're
of people
stressed.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
well, that is a question I would ask yourselves here, if it's worth the, you
Effort.
know.
For me, this is a huge deal. I mean, for the business office, it's a huge
And I
problem.
think it probably doesn't impact a lot of you who don't have 2 employees in the district, where maybe a spouse gets paid at a
Every
different
2
time.
weeks or
My
something.
husband and I
Single
both get
person
paid, and we
in the same
can't change that. That's, I mean, so it does impact me, it's 42 people, I get it.
I'm not
I
gonna
get
say it's not gonna impact everybody.
Yeah,
Right.
I get
It
it.
will.
It will impact
You're
everybody
gonna have
that's
to
single
plan.
too.
Right.
You'll have to.
We're in the
Absolutely,
we're in the
absolutely.
same boat.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think that's where I would go, okay, well then if I have to pull something personally out of what I've saved to, for that adjustment period, knowing that it's gonna, I think a consistent day would be fantastic.
I do see it, no matter what.
Cause then you're
though.
never going more than a month between
It's
paying.
always the 10th.
Getting that, it figured out on the front end would be a headache, but I think ultimately it would.
It would be worth it in the end.
It's gonna
I
cause some,
think
I
so.
understand it's gonna cause some grief the first year, that's why I wanna get ahead of it as soon as I can, so people can plan accordingly for the change.
Because there's times when people in the business office have to come in and work and nobody else is
Well,
Yeah.
working.
The Christmas break, well, it's not just the Christmas break.
But
A lot
then,
of people-
but then when you retire, you'll get a paycheck on June 10th, and not one until,
You'll get one in June 10th, you'll get one July 10th, and you'll get one August 10th.
Because
no, if you July, I mean, it's not gonna affect me any, but I'm just thinking through there. If somebody retires June of 19, they'll get one.
Their
on a
last
12
check will
on
be
a 12
July.
No, on a 12-month?
Yeah.
Okay, so
July
you're only gonna get then truly 11 checks
No.
for 18 on your,
No, we're moving it, so, let's say our new superintendent's gonna start this year, his first check would be July 10th, or not July 10th,
August 10th.
August 10th.
so he's only
And
gonna
your
get
last-
5 pay periods then.
By December,
So it is gonna affect my 18 taxes.
oh yeah, it'll
It
affect your
is.
taxes, yes. And actually, it's gonna
It's
be
gonna affect
better this year for your taxes,
But
because you're
more
gonna have
next
less income. You will, so your income tax return in the spring will be higher. Sorry, that's a personal thing.
I'll have fun. I'm going to.
So anyway, yeah, I didn't wanna.
The other thing we had discussed is Wes had mentioned that he might be willing out of his own personal fortune. Anybody who had,
To cover the
Float
gas
everybody.
for everybody.
We'll put that out to our membership, we'll let them
I wanna
know.
make sure I send that to my work group.
But no predatory interest rates, please, just a regular payday rate.
all right, well, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your time, and if you have agenda items, shoot me an email.